How to deal with deadlines. Man, those are one of the scariest things in the world, aren't they? Deadlines. Oh my gosh, there's so much stress around deadlines. Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Bridgman, and the theme of this week is all about the power of time frames in your life. And of course, deadlines are a part of that. But a lot of my clients are constantly struggling with the stress around a deadline. Have you ever felt that way? Just that deadline. I mean, it's right in the word, right? The word says deadline, right? I mean, it's terrible. So it's one of those things where people have a lot of contextualization, a lot of baggage around the word deadline. And it scares them. It scares them because it's fast approaching. It scares them because it feels dangerous. It scares them because they don't know whether they're going to get done on time. So I've got 3 tips for you today at really how to reframe deadlines and make them less stressful, at least, and how to really take advantage of that time frame power. Because I think you and I can both agree that without time frames on things, we tend not to get as much done. Without time frames on things, we tend not to act as our best selves. I've heard from a lot of people, and maybe you're the same, I know I can be this way, that when there's a time frame, when there's a deadline to get something done, I often perform at my best. But how can we make deadlines less stressful? So I was talking to a friend of mine not that long ago. He's a journalist, and he writes for a local newspaper and several other different smaller magazines. And I said, gosh, it must be stressful, constantly having deadlines because they've got to produce, right? Constantly got to produce. And he said, you know what? There's a few things that we did, and I'm going to share with you these right now. There's a few things that we do that make deadlines less scary. So first of all, first things first, they start early. So tip number 1, start early. Don't leave things to the last minute, right? Some of you may think, oh, I'm at my best when I've got a really tight time frame, really tight deadline to get something done. But this journalist friend of mine, he said, you know what? If you start that story, if you start that article early, your creativity has a chance to float in. It's got a chance, you've got space in your life to pour some creative energy into what it is that you're doing. And it winds up being so much better. Right? It winds up being so much better once you can put a little bit of creative energy in there, find new ideas or find new nuances within the story and the article, as he was saying, within your project to make it just that next level of better. I don't think our best selves are often brought out by leaving things to the last minute and acting and under stress and that sort of stressful atmosphere. Under duress is the word I'm looking for, right? So start early. No matter what the project is, if you get started early and you get started right away and not leave things off, you tend to be at your absolute best, and the project tends to work out a whole lot better. Tip number 2, all right? Look at my notes here. Be present. Oh my goodness, it's so important to be present in the situation. And I don't mean just for meeting deadlines and those types of things, but be present in life in general. You ever have one of those moments where life starts to slow down a little bit, where life starts to really kind of quiet down and things start to go in slow motion? You remember those moments super accurately. It's because you're really present. And my journalist friend, he was telling me, he said, you know what? When you're interviewing people or when you're doing research, if you're thinking about other things, you tend not to be as effective in the interview. You get less information. You get less great story. And he said, and if you're not present when you're doing your research, it tends to take a heck of a lot longer, right? If you're distracted by, conversations you're having with other people or just thinking about, man, I got to go grocery shopping today, or, I wonder what's going on with XYZ or politics or any of these other things that might distract you, or browsing on your social media feed, right? These other things that might distract you and pull you away from what you're actually after, right? They wind up inducing stress. They wind up making you feel stressful because you're not focused and you're not present in the situation. So one of the ways to stop worrying about deadlines and to remove the stress is to be very, very present in what you're doing. So tip number 1, right, is start early. Tip number 2, be present, right? Be very present and stay in the moment and focus on what it is you want to get done. You'll tend to get a lot more accomplished in smaller time frames that way. And the final tip I have for you in around this, and we use this a lot in business, is we changed the word deadline, right? So my journalist buddy, he said, I hate the word deadline. I don't use it for myself. So I use the words, and this is what he was saying. He says, I use the word expectation time or achievement time. Very different energy around those words, right? So what's the expectation time for this? Not a deadline. When's the deadline for this due? No. What's the expectation time frame, right? Or what's the time frame itself? There's a great use of the word, right? Or what's the achievement time, right? When do I want to get this achieved? When do I want it to get accomplished? When you change the word from deadline to achievement, suddenly the energy completely shifts around the whole context of deadlines, doesn't it? When you say, this is my achievement point, or this is my achievement time, completely changes it. Plus, the other cool thing it does is it makes it a little competitive for you. Extra little tip, okay? Tip number 4, a little hidden one. When you use words like achievements or accomplishment times, it tends to bring out that inner competitor in a lot of us, and we want to move faster. We want to get things done in a quicker fashion. All right. So I hope those are helpful for you. I hope that you can keep these as little beta interrupts inside your brain so that when you hear the word deadline, it doesn't cause stress. When you put time frames into your life to get things done, that doesn't cause a whole bunch of nervousness and anxiety, right? You can use these tips to change the context around deadlines for yourself, because time frames are important. Deadlines are scary, but time frames are important, right? So the 4 tips, we started with 3, but it turned out we found a 4th. So tip number 1, of course, is to start early, everybody. Start right away. Tip number 2, be present. Be focused and be present in the situation. Like my journalist buddy said, you get way more in an interview with somebody if you're actually present in the interview rather than off daydreaming about something else. Number 3, shift the word deadlines into something like achievement lines or time frames or accomplishment times, right? And then tip number 4 is have a little fun with it. Turn into a little competition with yourself. All right. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope you get great value out of this today. And remember, time frame things, chunk them out, give them some time frames. If you loved this, absolutely subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want any more, subscribe to the channel and check out the other pieces that we have, especially up this week around time frames. Some great quotes about it and some ideas on how to chunk out bigger projects. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Check us out later on michaelbridgman.ca.